Hello, my name is Samantha Hankey, and today I'll be talking about two case connections for Unit 2 for Biochem. Very first thing I'm going to do is give you a little bit of synopsis of the case that we are working with, and then we'll go through the case to answer any questions that it may have. Very first case here is that we have a 5-year-old boy who presents into the office. The mother is concerned because the patient's showing symptoms that include drowsiness, polydipsia, and frequent urination. The patient had serum insulin levels taken at baseline, which was 0.8 milliunits per liter, and 5 milliunits per liter after 1 hour of a glucose loading test. In this patient's specific presentation, they are demonstrating a low serum insulin level in comparison to what the average or norm serum levels would be. So approximately 6 milliunits per liter would be at baseline, and approximately 40 milliunits per liter after a glucose loading test would be within the norm or average range. Based on this information, it suggests that the biochemical basis of this patient is that the patient is showing an insulin deficiency. Basically, the patient is not producing an adequate amount of insulin, which also demonstrates signs and symptoms of diabetes type 1 diagnosis. In this patient's case, the predicted fasting glucose levels would be above normal range, which would demonstrate possible hyperglycemia. We'll talk about why that may be. But first, let's talk about insulin. So insulin is produced or triggered when blood glucose levels become too high within the body. It is released from the beta cells that are found in the islets of Langerhans of the pancreas. Insulin is responsible for glucose uptake and uses a feedback inhibition for gluconeogenesis and glycogenolysis. Overall, the primary role for insulin is to help regulate blood glucose homeostasis within the body. We'll go through the process of insulin signaling pathway. So the very first thing is that the phosphorylated insulin receptor substrate, or IRS, protein binds to phosphatidylinositol 3 kinase, or PI3K, and recruits its catalytic subunit to activate PI3K. PI3K activates phosphorylation of phosphatidylinositol to produce 3,4,5 phosphatidylinositol 3,4,5 triphosphate, or PIP3. While doing so, it also activates serine threonine protein kinase AKT. AKT helps regulate the glucose transporter 4 that goes into the cell and helps with glucose uptake. The phosphorylation of glycogen synthase kinase 3, or GSK3, inhibits its activity. This will increase the activity of glycogen synthase. It also promotes cellular uptake of glucose, synthesis of glycogen, and also lowers blood glucose. The phosphorylation of transcription factor inactivates and degrades FOXO1 and inhibits phosphoenolpyruvate carboxygenase. PAPCK is a key enzyme that is found in gluconeogenesis. Then the transcriptional regulation of glucose 6-phosphate, or G6-PACE, inhibits gluconeogenesis within the liver and lowers blood glucose. So in this case, we would say that if we took a fasted glucose level of this patient, that it would be high. So with that being said, and going through the process of insulin, the reason why we would predict that the fasted glucose would be high is due to the fact that insulin helps with glucose regulation. So whenever glucose is high, it stimulates it stimulates insulin so that it can go in and it can help and activate the production of glucose so that it doesn't build up in the body. So in this patient's case, when it is inhibited or deficient, then the patient does not have that regulation. The patient is missing that insulin component that's going to help regulate its body's glucose levels, which will cause a buildup of that glucose within that patient's body. So that's why it would be high during fasting, because it would build up, and it wouldn't be taken out or taken up into the skeletal muscles and the adipose tissue as discussed. The two regulatory enzymes that will likely be present are glucose 6-phosphate and fructose 1,6-biphosphate. So that concludes our first case. So we have our second case here. So we have a 2-month-old female that's presenting with jittery spells after breastfeeding. The patient has only had breast milk since birth per the mother. The mother also reports that the baby sleeps more than 2 hours between feedings, and it's been correlated with the recent symptoms or the symptoms that she's noticed. The patient is known to have hypoglycemia. The patient has hepatomegaly, or an enlarged liver. They administered epinephrine with no increase in blood glucose, but an increase in blood lactate. The patient is also unable to maintain blood glucose during levels of fasting. So we have A, B, C, D choice. A choice is hereditary fructose intolerance. So first I'm going to go through, just explain what are they, and then we'll kind of rationale from there. So again, hereditary fructose intolerance is a condition that affects the person's ability to break down sugar, fructose, which is a simple sugar. This sugar is primarily found in fruits. The liver is unable to break down the fructose 1-phosphate, which inhibits the process of glycogenolysis, and it also can cause hypoglycemia. So galactosemia is a disorder that affects the body's ability to metabolize galactose. Galactose is found in primarily lactose, like breast milks or any sort of like milk products. Galactosemia occurs when the enzyme galactose 1-phosphate urodiltransferase, or GALT, is not present or is dysfunctional. The primary responsible of GALT is to break down galactose so that it can be turned into glucose. C is glycogen storage disorder. So with GSD, there are many types of GSD that can be found. Most common one that most people have is von Gerich disease, which we'll talk a little bit more about in like a minute or so. But basically with GSD, this is when the glycogen storages within the liver or the enzymes within that glycogen process are either deficient or absent. So when the body's in its starved state, it has the glycogen storages, and then that glycogen is broken down and it is released into the body as glucose, again during that starved state. With number D now, or letter D, we have glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency. Glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase is an important enzyme found in the pentose phosphate pathway. This specific enzyme is important to help, regulate or help keep the red blood cells from harmful byproducts. So what it does is it catalyzes the conversion of glucose 6-phosphate to 6-phosphogluconolactone. It's then reduced into NADPH, which is ultimately goes to glutathione. The deficiency is commonly led to hemolytic anemia because without that enzyme, it cannot help break down or go through the pentose pathway process so that it can can't go through those pentose pathway process so that it cannot produce glutathione, which glutathione helps essentially protect the red blood cells from all those byproducts. And whenever you have your red blood cells exposed to those byproducts, toxins, or anything that's harmful, it actually it kills them. So whenever you reduce, you're killing the red blood cells, you're reducing the amount of red blood cells found, which leads to anemia. All right, so let's ration out here. So hereditary fructose intolerance would not be the correct answer because fructose is found in foods and fruits. And as we know, our patient has not been introduced to any sort of outside food. The patient has only been using breast milk, which, kind of going back to human breast milk, is lactose, lactose is a combination of glucose and galactose. So in this situation, that I would rule that one out. G6PD deficiency would not be the correct answer because this enzyme focuses more so on healthy red blood cells. So that was the last one we talked about. So it, not really aligned with the patient's, symptoms, the signs that the patient is demonstrating at this time. The patient, for galactosemia with this patient, you would think that it would be a logical answer because the patient only been exposed to breast milk, which also contains galactose because it has lactose, which is galactose and glucose, as we described. But what kind of threw me for the loop there, that wouldn't make it the best answer, is some of the other signs and symptoms that the patient had. So the patient's having issues with maintaining glucose levels during a starved state, which we know that the G6-PASE enzyme that is commonly deficient in the von Gierke disease of GSD1 is what would inhibit that glycogen process from occurring within the liver, which occurs during a starved state. So overall, not saying galactosemia is a good differential diagnosis, but overall, I would say the primary diagnosis for this patient would be the glycogen storage disease, which would be letter C. Thank you for listening, and I appreciate your time. Thanks.